everyone. Thanks for joining me again on my little heritage journal. What we're going to do today is there's, of course, the cover I always show you. This is all about what this is a little memorabilia for my daughter of her grandparents, which were my father was born in 1938, and my mother was born in 1940. This is their wedding picture. They were married in 1968. So this whole little journal is all about our heritage. We are French Acadian, so there's a lot of history on our heritage in here, as well as some of our traditional foods that we used to eat, that I even used to eat growing up, and ones that they were brought up on. And also I've got a lot of kind of fun tidbits of toys that they grew up, things that were invented in the 40s, the shows they used to watch, even though my parents didn't have a TV when they were young, but the television did exist. So I wanted to give them something that my kids can relate to. Well, I say kids because my son knows I'm doing this for my daughter, and I have to do another one for my son. But, I'm putting all kinds of fun things in there. So I've got some, pop culture, a little bit of pop culture. I mean, it was before the 60s. I'm putting most of the stuff from the 40s in there so they can know what it was like when their grandparents were growing up. But the nice thing is it's things they can relate to, some of the TV shows that started, or the newspaper comics that, they're all into these days, and all that kind of fun stuff. And then I've got stuff on artists. Because I am an artist, I wanted to put some of my favorite artists in here, and most of them that I'm going to relate to today, they died in the 1940s. But, I didn't really want to put all that pop art culture in here, because that was more the 60s, and I'm trying to focus on the 40s. So I did find a lot of artists that inspired me, that, they passed away in the 40s, but they were still painting, and there's some really nice paintings from there that I want to relate to. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to complete another page in my book. This is what I've done so far, and I still haven't done the inside cover, but this is what it's going to look like. So I've got I referenced our Acadian flag, and I just kind of skipped that front page because I haven't really figured out. I want to put some information on my parents in there. But I've got where they grew up, some maps from the 1940s. Well, they're vintage, some are from the 50s, but just older maps saying where they were born. And then I've got some heritage buildings that still exist that I posted in here from where they grew up. And then today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little page on some of the iconic meals that we grew up with, and part of our culture, which is, I think that every culture has some form of a flatbread, and ours in the Acadian culture is ploy, which is a buckwheat flour pancake, and you can eat it savory or sweet. So I'm going to do a page in there, and then I'm also going to put in, and I've got a recipe for ploy as well. So I found this, the packaging online. So I took a picture, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it in the little journal so that you see the packaging when she opens it up. And she's 8, so she likes all these little flips and tucks. But I'm going to have the recipe underneath and the packaging on top. So when you pop up the packaging, you'll see the recipe. And I'm going to do another one on this side, one that we traditionally ate growing up. My mom used to make, and I always just referred to it as chicken stew, but it's called chicken fricotte. And it was a chicken stew with carrots and potatoes and these really light, fluffy dumplings that she used to always make that I just love. And I'm a vegetarian now, so I don't eat chicken now, but I still make vegetarian stews and make these dumplings because they're just simply delicious. So I have a little description of what it is, and then I just cut out a little image of the stew. And I'm kind of going to do the same thing, like a little peekaboo thing. So I got to cut the back a little. Well, I think I'll just leave it peeking a little bit like that. Let's see, do I have enough room? So I'm just kind of trimming to size. And with this one, what I'm going to do, because I don't have much room, let me just trim a little bit more off the edge here. So with this one, because I want to do a peekaboo flip as well, I am just going to masking tape it together like a little booklet. So I've got the description here, I've got the image on top. I'm just going to put a piece of masking tape to kind of make like a little booklet and fold it over. And then let me get my bone folder here and make sure this is really down there. I'll just snip the edges off, the excess. And then what I'm going to do is just snip here so that the whole thing can open and this won't fold back, because I want her to be able to read the inside. So this way it opens like a book. See what I mean? And then now I can just paste this right into the book. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me just take the inside of the book out. And remember, we're recycling an old phone case. Well, it's not old. I just don't use it anymore. Okay, so with the buckwheat one, I am actually going to just glue the packaging on first, so I know where to place the recipe after. And so I'm just gluing the top of it like so. And then what I'll do, let me just, you can use a ruler or a piece of paper, but I just want to make sure it folds over straight like so. Okay. So then that'll be able to flip up, and then I'm just going to place this inside, but I want to make sure that when it's closed that I'm not seeing it underneath, so it's kind of like a little surprise. So that's why I put the packaging on first. I'm just going to get some glue down on this, because I did want it centered. Okay, so a trick that I do is I'm just going to kind of place that on there and then press it down. There we go. Okay. And then I can, oh, I always have so much excess glue. Okay. There we go. How cute is that? So when she turns the page, I completely put this on upside down. Look at that. Ah, I hope it didn't stick. Oh my gosh, do you guys ever do stuff like this? I'm trying to do it so that you can see, and I didn't realize my book was upside down, so I have to go and literally put it on the other side. Hang on a sec. Real world, people. I'm making mistakes. It happens. Okay. So funny. All right. No editing here, right, guys? All right. So we'll do the same thing. This side, it's still very sticky, so I put so much glue on it and get that down. Oh, I'm glad I checked. Let's see. Do we have it the right way? Yes. Okay. So now I'll turn it this way for you guys. Okay, so that when she gets to this page, she'll be able to flip it up, and there's a nice little surprise for her. Okay, so then over this side, I'm going to put the chicken fricotte recipe. And I'm just going to put it lower at the bottom because what I want to do is just add some content at the top. So I'm going to follow the kind of the theme of my little journal, and I am, is it sticky? No. I'm going to use masking tape, and I'm just going to put a couple pieces down so that I can make some notes and personalize it. And I'm using the masking tape because this paper is like pearlescent, and I'm using a gel pen. I don't want it to smudge. Plus I like the little addedness. So traditional chicken stew, Nana and her mom made growing up. There. Isn't that cute? Okay. So then as we turn the page, I've got some pockets. So what I was thinking of doing is I want to put, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, is I want to put some like pop culture reference, you know, so that she can relate to some of the things, you know, that she's going through now as far as, you know, the toys, her favorite things to read or play with. So what I'm doing is I'm making these little tags that are going to slip into the pockets. So I'm probably going to add additional pockets. So they're kind of like fun facts for her, and they get a kick out of this kind of stuff. You know, I remember growing up when my parents used to say that they would walk, you know, 5 miles in the snow to get to school, and they didn't have telephones and they didn't have TVs, and they had to entertain themselves, and the classroom was just one room with all the kids. And I was like thinking, I kept thinking they were exaggerating. It just didn't make sense to me. But it's true. And the funny thing is now, you know, I grew up in the 70s, is trying to explain to my kids that we didn't have computers or cell phones. I mean, I didn't have a cell phone until I was in my 20s, in the night, like late 90s. Maybe it was only 2000. I know they came out in the 90s, but I didn't have one until, you know, 2000 and something. So it's just funny. Like, if they think that's bizarre because they can't fathom it, imagine this kind of stuff. So right here I've got, which is, this is funny because one of the TV shows, like one thing that my kids are really into and they can relate to, is all these superhero movies. Like, we love superhero movies and comics and books, and that's what my brother and I grew up reading, and it's also, you know, what we grew up knowing. So when all these movies started coming out, we could really relate to it, and my kids just love it. But I went back to the 1940s because I wanted to know what was like trending at the time as far as TV shows and music and comic books and that kind of thing. And I came across, which is one of my favorites when I was young reading, was Archie comics. So they had Archie comics, and then the other thing was DC's Batman and Robin. Remember that show on TV? Oh my gosh, it was playing in the 40s. It is so funny. It's so funny to watch when you relate to what they've got now with the technology. But you know, like my parents grew up watching this, and now my kids are into it, so they can relate. And they used to have the comic strips in the newspaper every week. And so, you know, I've got a little bit of, because I used to tell them about Archie, how I'd read Archie, and I started watching that show Riverdale, which is a modern day take on Archie. So I was telling my kids about it, and they've always been so curious about this Archie comic. So I found this. So what I'm going to do is I'm making tags, like I mentioned. So I've got some here of the first toys that were popular and came out in the 1940s. And it's really hard to read or see this stuff, but so those hot rod little cars with the tracks, that was one that came out. This Christina doll, I think it's more like a modern day doll. And then remember this game with the marbles and the little sticks, and I can't remember what it's called, but I did buy my kid, or my son, one, a little mini version for Christmas last year. So I'm going to look up the names, and I'm going to put the names of them on the back, and I'm just going to stick it in the little pocket. And then there was this little baby walking doll. And then remember these, we all remember these. I don't remember the name either. I wonder if you guys do, but they were these little cartridges with the peanuts, and you put them in and you can like snap the little thing down to watch the picture change. And it was like watching your own little movie. And then of course, look at the rotary phone. They had like a toy rotary phone. And then do you guys remember Dennis the Menace? Well, they had Dennis the Menace doll here with his friends. So I thought that was the funniest thing, because growing up, I always related to like the mischievous kid as Dennis the Menace, because I used to watch it on TV. So I'm going to write all kinds of fun facts on the back, and I am going to stick them in these little pamphlets or the little pockets. And I'm going to have a bunch of them. I'm just going to kind of have them staggered like so. And I'm going to create another pocket on the other side so I can stick these ones in. So what I'm going to do is, let me just stick these in for a minute. So let me get my masking tape out, and because I want to label these so she knows. And I'm going to put 1940s toys. Okay, and then on this side, let's make a pocket. But first, I want to get a little bit more of a sturdy backing. So I'm going to just glue these on and then recut them out. I had to glue them, or sorry, I had to cut them out separately because I had so much excess white on the back, and I didn't want to waste, you know, this cardstock. So make little tags. Maybe on this one I'll leave a little bit of the cardstock paper behind or underneath it. Is that the same size, same width? About, okay. Need my excess glue. Okay, can I put this one that way? Yep. So then another thing that I was researching was, you know, the hottest music trends in the 40s. And I came across, of course, the R&B and blues. And this one said Black Music, Black History. So I wanted to put that in because that's another side of my kids' cultures. So, which I'm going to end up doing another little journal for their father's side. So, and they aren't from America or I mean, they grew up in Canada, but the other side of my children's culture is Caribbean, from the island of St. Lucia, and there's a lot of French there too, so it's, you know, nice for the kids to understand their background and where they came from and their grandparents, and because that is a whole nother culture. I mean, the food, the music, the attire, it is, you know, there's a lot of information to take in and a lot of information that they should know. So that's the whole reason why I'm doing this. And, you know, it's really nice even for you guys as artists and creators, just even to, you know, do some research on your cultural heritage so that you can understand, you know, your roots and where you came from, and you end up finding out some really interesting information and facts. So, okay. This one was also, and why I put these specific bands, because there were so many music movements. There was a lot of country and all kinds of stuff like that, but my parents were really big on blues, jazz, and also that kind of like big band. They call it the big band singers, like Doris Day, Frank Sinatra, all that kind of stuff. So I really wanted to put stuff in there that was also representational of who, you know, my kids' grandparents were, or are, because they are still alive. Thank goodness. Okay. So I've got to make a pocket. I'm just trying to figure out, I think what I might do is do a glycine clear bag pocket. Let me see what I've got out here. Bear with me a minute. Okay. So I've got a big one here, and I want her to be able to close it. So I'm going to cut the bag and just mend it back together with some masking tape. So, because my glycine bag is a little bit too big. And then that way, at least, I'm going to be able to use, I'm just going to cut it in half so that I can use the other half on another page or something else. Okay. Oops. Oh no, I went over it a bit there. Okay, so I've got one here. I'm not going to use that one because I want to be able to close it. So I'm just going to take the glycine bag because I want the sticky part, and we're going to mask the end. And you can use washi tape too. I mean, I've mentioned over and over you can use washi tape, but just with this particular look, I want to use the masking tape. It's kind of retro for me, so okay. So we're just going to fold that over to seal it and get my little foam folder to really press down. Just going to snip the edges. Okay. You can see that. And then that way, all these can slip in the pocket and be able to seal it, and she won't lose it. So we just have to get the glycine bag on. And I'm just going to use some glue. And the glue will dry clear, so you won't see anything. You can definitely use double-sided tape if you want. I will reinforce it with a little more masking tape on the edges. So get that in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a couple pieces of whoops. Oh, look at that. Don't you hate when you pull your masking tape and it ends up dividing in two? Okay. Let me just get that off. So I'm just going to guesstimate here. And then the nice thing about it, so I'm going to just, it's going to be a little bit more reinforcement up here, but then I can also, you know, write the tag line up here, like pop culture from the 1940s. Oops. Or I'll put 1940s pop culture is what I'll do. 1940s pop culture. And then down here I'll put TV, just in case she doesn't really get the term pop culture, music, and books. Okay, and then I could take all these and I'm going to write little notes on the back of these. So, and I'm going to literally add my tape again. So it reminds me of my parents' old photo albums. I don't know if you recall this, but in their old photo albums, they have their pictures and then they have a piece of Scotch tape. And it's not like the glycine albums that we remember or we've done, or, you know, the sticky with the vellum. It is like a piece of paper, almost like modern day art photography. And they've got the little corners and the images are there. And then they've got their piece of Scotch tape at the top with their tags on it. And it's just very retro and cool. So I'm mimicking this. So I'm just going to put Archie, comic, mommy's favorite. Add another piece of tape. Mommy's favorite read growing up. Okay, stick Archie in there. And then on this, a couple, let me start with one. So that's Batman and Robin TV show, 1940. Let me stick that one in there. Oh, I just want to write something about the newspaper comic strip. I'll just put also a favorite comic strip in local news paper. There we go. Let me stick that in. And then, okay, so on this one, this is the R&B, 1940s and 50s. So let's see. Favorite 40s music. Oops. R&B. Okay. I'll stick that in there. And then the last one is I'll put Nana and Papa's just to personalize. Nana and Papa's favorite music. From the 40s. So I'll put jazz and blues. And then they also called it big bands. So let me just add another down here. But my parents still listen to just jazz, like they love jazz. Big bands. Okay, and then the nice thing about this is it's another neat way of doing a pocket too. As you pull the strip off. And it seals, but it also opens and reseals. So I know that all those little goodies inside are safe. So those are my 2 pages today. I did, I think I'll put another tape up here, but I'll do that after and at the bottom. But so far, this is what we've got. And I think what I'm going to do is, now that I see my glycine pocket, I really like that. I'm going to put the other one over here at the front so we can put some little goodies in. So it's coming along nicely. Our 2 pages today with the flips. And then we've got the pockets with our 1940s toys and a little bit of pop culture. So then we are done that signature. Once I get the glycine pocket here, we will be done that signature and we'll move on to the next. I have 2 left. I've got one in the middle here as well. And we're moving right along. So join me. I'm going to do a little bit on, you'll definitely want to join me next week when I talk about some of the artists that I'm going to put in here. I'm going to kind of continue the pop art over in the next little signature. So thanks for watching me again, you guys, and I will see you next week. All right.